Hey everyone, this is Untold Force, and I'm going to go over the VKB Gladiator NXT or EVO SCG, or Space Combat Grip, and these are the starter bindings for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. If you haven't watched the introduction video about how to do bindings with the Gladiator, please watch that first. This is not meant to be your introduction. This is meant to be kind of like a little extra help if you want to follow along with me, because I deleted all of my bindings to make that video, so I have to remake them, which is good because that means you get a chance to watch me do it. If you want more help, this is the place to be. If you want an introduction, please click the video in the description, or hopefully on the screen if we can get it up there. But let's just jump right in. So again, not an introduction. We're going straight to controls. I deleted all of my profiles to make that video, so we're going to restart them. At this point, you should have the starter binding sheet either up as a PDF on your computer or tablet, or even better yet, a printout. And I'm going to start at the top left and work my way down. So we're going to start with the A1 Ministick. The first button is pushing in on the A1 Ministick. That switches between POV and analog mode for the premium grip. If you don't have the premium grip, that's okay. You can still use the quick views. If you do have the premium grip, then we're going to start in the POV mode. That means that the red light should be off. So make sure the red light's off on the A1 Ministick, and we'll start here. So first off, we're going to do cockpit quick view. All right, so cockpit quick view up is going to be up. We've got to put in our profile name. So I will call this Gladiator EVO starter binding, or you know what, we can call this whatever. I'll call this Gladiator EVO default, and I'll apply to all aircraft, set as default. You of course can change any of these as you want. So we'll do cockpit quick view rear, which is going to be down on the POV. Cockpit quick view left is going to be left. Cockpit quick view right is right. Okay, so now just to make sure everything's good, I saved those because I had a bad experience once where I lost my bindings. So we're just going to make sure that, yep, under assigned we have all 4 of those. That's great. Now we're going to go back to none, and we're going to start with external quick view. So all of the bindings, if I have multiple things bound, I have the first binding / the second binding. So we're going to now start with external quick view. So external quick view top is going to be up. Notice how it appears, this little 1 appears there. 1 means that it has a, that input is bound to something else, and it'll show you a number for the number of inputs that it shares. So so let's just say that if I had the POV up bound to 3 or 4 different things, it would show the number 3 or 4 in there. Right now I only have it bound to cockpit quick view up and external quick view top. So that means that it's only shared with one other thing. We'll get into that, especially with the rapid fire, not the rapid fire trigger, but the main trigger. The second stage of that gets a little crazy. All right, so next thing is down on the POV. So that's going to be external quick view rear. So again, we'll see the number 1 appear there. This is where it gets a little confusing. On the left, on the A1 Ministick, is going to be bound to right. Don't ask me why that is, but remember, right is bound to left. That's just how Asobo does external views. You can change this, of course, if you like. And left is bound to right. But I prefer to keep kind of the quick views where I look in the direction that I'm aiming, or so, you know, it'll make sense. It's just that there's a difference between the cockpit and external quick view and how they deal with the left and right cameras. So there we go. All right, so I'm just going to save these again. Bad habit of mine, or good habit. All right, next one is going to be the A2 red button. So we'll type in toggle autopilot, and that'll be toggle autopilot master. Now again, I'm using the detection, the automatic detection for most of these. And since this is now a airplane control, no longer a view control, I'm going to call this Gladiator EVO Airplane Default. Of course, you can call this whatever you want as well, but just helps. All right, so next we're done. So we're done with the A2 button. Now we're going to go to the rapid fire trigger, which is going to be toggle visual assistances display. And the way I do this is the visual assistances display is the way so on the rapid fire trigger, again, only on the premium grip. That's me pushing out on it. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to push out away from me. That's visual assistances display. That's just how I do it. And the next one is smart camera. And that is me pulling in on the rapid fire trigger. Great. Next is the main trigger. That's brakes. Always an important thing to bind. If you can't stop your plane, well, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So brakes is just the first stage of the main trigger. So if you pull the main trigger all the way down, it's going to give you something else. But we only want button 1 there. That is brakes. And now we get into our first plus M. I covered this in the other video, but that means that it's the we're using the D1 pinky button as a modifier. So we'll type in toggle spoilers, and here we're going to try auto scanning. So I'm going to hold the pinky button and I'm going to do the half trigger on the main trigger. So we'll do 5 + 1. It should be great. Worked. Not going to be so lucky with the second stage of the main trigger. Okay, so we'll do the second stage of the main trigger. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things bound to it. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the mission stuff that you're going to find for plane specific controls. Afterburner, spray, scoop, grapple, door lights, switch jump. These are all things that you might come across in your missions, or in specialized planes. So you have to do a full pull on the main trigger there. Now, if I watch what happens here, if I do toggle afterburner and I pull it all the way down, it's going to say 1 + 2. That's okay, but I would prefer for it to be just the second stage, even though it will make sense for both of them. So I'm going to go and use the manual binding here. I'm going to click the gear. I'm just going to select 2. I'm going to save just to make sure that all of this work is not being lost. We'll go to assigned, make sure that toggle afterburner is at 2. That's great. Go back to none. And now we're going to do the next thing. So we have afterburner spray. It should be the next one. Toggle spray. I'm just going to bind this manually. It's 2. Next, we will do scoops. Firefighting mission toggle scoops or doors. Wow, what a no wonder why I couldn't fit the entire thing in there. That's a long bind. All right, so we can see the number of things that are shared by the number 2 is now going up. Now it's sharing it with 2 other things. We're going to go to grapple. And if you have a choice between, these things like grapple hook on, set grapple hook, toggle, generally toggle is the safest option in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So if you ever have a choice, usually go for toggle. There are a few instances that might not apply, but we're going to go with that. Select 2 again. Now it's shared with 3 others. And finally, it should be door lights switch jump. Here we go. Door lights switch jump. And let me just make sure that that is correct. Yeah. And I'm just going to click 2. Now it should be shared with 4 other things, which makes sense. We're going to save that since we have 5 binds on the second stage or the full pull of the main trigger. We'll go back to the controls and we will now jump to the C1 thumb hat. Again, big difference between the premium and the regular grip, that the premium version has 5 inputs here. On your regular grip, you're just going to have the push. That's okay. We'll start with the push. So we're going to type in quick reply. You will probably use this a lot if you use career mode, because it gets annoying to just have to go through every stage for the 10th time. So we'll do quick reply. Next is open communications panel. This is again the modifier plus push. So there we go. Have 5 plus 20. 5, of course, is your pinky finger modifier, the D1 key. Now we'll go into the autopilot reference altitude. So increase autopilot reference altitude and decrease, that is up and down respectively. And I will also handle the autopilot reference VS, vertical speed. So let's see, decrease. So again, remember up is going to be decrease. So we're going to do up is decrease and increase is going to be down. There we go. And now we'll go to heading bug. Decrease heading bug is going to be left. And increase heading bug will be right. These are all very handy for autopilot. And if you don't use the autopilot, you don't need to bind these. Next is the D1 pinky button. As I say on the sheet, it is unbound by itself, but we use it with a bunch of other commands, so you don't have to worry about D1 right now. Next, we're going to go to the base, and we're going to go to SW1 for the base switch. So we'll type in flaps, and we'll have decreased flaps will be up, and increased flaps will be down. There we go. We're going to skip axes for now. I'll save that for the end. We'll go jump up to the top right and go to the B1 side button. I cover this one in the video where we do cockpit / external view mode. If you're not sure where the B1 side button is, raise your, so for right-handed, well, actually, just raise your index finger up from the trigger position. It should be on the outside. So there we go. Great. Now we're going to cover the A4 top right hat. So this hat covers translation controls the way I do it. And I push in, whenever I push, that's reset cockpit view. And it also resets external view. So we'll reset external view. So no matter where you are, you push in on the A4, you push in on A4 and it will reset your view, either inside or outside. Great. Never bad idea to save, especially after we do a little bit of work. Great. Next, we are going to go to, let's make sure we have filters none. Good. Cockpit view height. So we'll type that in, and increase cockpit view height will be up. Decrease cockpit view height will be down. And now we'll cover the same two up and down buttons. We'll do translate cockpit view. So we'll do translate cockpit view forward. We'll be holding the modifier and pushing up. That worked. And translate cockpit view backward, we'll be holding the modifier and pushing down. Translate cockpit view left will be left. Translate cockpit view right will be right. Great. So we're done with the A4. Now let's move down to A3. So we type in toggle EFB, push in And if we hold the modifier and push in on the same button, we will toggle pitot heat. Great. Next, we're going to do elevator trim down and up. Oh, okay, well, we're just going to type this in. Notice how this is an analog input. I usually don't recommend binding digital buttons, 1, 0, on off buttons to analog inputs, but in this case, it works better than it works better than the other alternatives. So I'm just going with it. All right, so elevator trim down, nose down is going to be up. So push up, and now we type in elevator trim up, nose up is going to be down on A3. Next is rudder trim. So we'll do rudder trim left. It's going to be left. Rudder trim right is going to be right. And finally, for aircraft that have aileron trim, we'll do aileron trim left is going to be the modifier, D1 modifier plus left. And aileron trim right is going to be the modifier plus right. So that should be done with the A3. Now we'll go to the base buttons. If you've never flown in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you know that the parking brakes are set, or you won't know, but everybody who's flown before knows that the parking brakes are always set. So it's important to have this bound to a button that's easily accessible. I use the base button F2, so I'm going to press the base F2 button, which is the one on the left. Let's toggle parking brakes. Next is toggle active pause. That's the middle button, or F1. Active pause, if you press it, it'll just pause you where you are. You can take a moment, take a breather, grab a nice cup of tea. All right, next is going to be toggle landing gear. That's going to be F3, or the right button on the base. And now we move to EN1, or encoder 1, which is on the base right side. So we'll get to increase mixture, and that will be up on your encoder. So decrease mixture is going to be down. And this is where it gets a little fun. You might need both hands for this one. For aircraft that have propeller pitch that can be controlled, I have increase and decrease propeller pitch using the encoder plus the modifier. So you'll probably want to use your left hand or your other hand to manipulate the encoder, while you use your other hand to hold the D1 pinky button, the modifier button. So we're going to start with the increase propeller pitch. So here we go. And we will hold the pinky modifier and push up. And decrease propeller pitch is going to be the modifier, and down. So that should be, I think, all of our digital inputs. I'm just going to save that. And now we'll get into our axes. So we'll get into the ailerons. And for this, I'm just going to move the stick left and right. Good. For the elevator, I will move the stick up and down, or forward and back. For the rudder axis, I will move this. I will twist the grip left and right. There we go. And finally, for the throttle axis, I'm going to use the mini stick on the base and move that up and down. And if you have the premium grip, we can bind the A1 mini stick axes in analog mode. So at this point, push in on your grip. Push in on the A1 mini stick on your grip and the little red light should illuminate. And now we will go to the bindings at the very bottom right. Cockpit view yaw axis is going to be the x-axis here. And we will also set that to external view yaw axis. Same x, so that's, of course, left and right. And for cockpit view pitch axis is going to be up and down. And then finally, external view pitch axis is also going to be up and down. So at this point, we have pretty much we have everything bound, but we don't have the axes checked for inversions yet. And we also don't have sensitivity set. So the next thing I'm going to do is I always like to decrease my sensitivity, especially on the twist. Since this doesn't work yet, oh, it remembered my settings. Amazing. But if it didn't remember my settings, now, wait a minute. How did it remember my settings? Because I deleted them. Well, I'll just chalk it up as a bug. All right. Normally, this would look like this. Joystick R axis Z is your twist axis, or at least it's my twist axis for my grip. And I like to have that be a little bit less sensitive so that way I'm not activating a lot of rudder without, well, I just like it to have a little bit more precision. So if you decrease both the sensitivity plus and the sensitivity minus, that should make it a little bit smoother and a little bit more precise. So I like to do that. And let's see what else we need. Well, we're going to go do a free flight. So let's choose a nice place to go to. I don't know. We'll go to Geneva because that's where I used in my, oops, come on. That's what I used in my tutorial. And we are just going to go on the runway and make sure that we have all of our inversions set properly. Now this will take just a minute, but it's very important because if you get in the air and you realize that your rudder is inverted or isn't inverted and it should be inverted, then everything's going to be very confusing. So you'll have to check all of the analog axes. So here we go. All right, first off, I'm going to go outside because that's where we want to be. I'm going to check my ailerons. And we can even go inside and look down to make sure that things are acting the way we want. Left is left, right is right. That's great. So I'm going to pull the stick back towards me and the yoke comes back towards me. That looks good. Push the stick forward. That looks good. Fine. So now I'm going to check the rudder. The pedals are down here. We can click on the yoke to make it disappear, and we can use the rudder pedals and make sure that these are correct. So when you turn the rudder to the left and to the right, if it's not behaving properly, we have to go and invert it. So to invert it, pardon the sound, we click, we'll go back to our controls. I'm going to go to assigned, and I can go to rudder axis, and I can click the select inverted axis right there. You can see that. And I'll save it and go back. And now it's behaving the way I want it to. Great. Finally, let's check the throttle axis. So that's good. Throttle axis is behaving as it should, at least how I like it, where if the throttle is all the way down at the towards my desk, then that's 0 throttle, and up is 100% throttle. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push in on the A4 and that'll reset my view. Let's check our quick views real quick. So I'll do left, right, up, down, looking good. We'll go outside, do the same thing. Left looks to the left, right looks to the right, up looks straight down, and down looks behind me. Great. That's how I want the quick views to act. Now we'll go inside and we're going to switch it to analog mode for the premium grip, and I'm going to use left looks left, right looks right, up looks up, and down looks down. If you like to invert that, you can invert that too. That's fine. We'll check it outside. So left and right are a little different, and especially down is up and up is down. So we would need to invert these because, or at least I would like to invert them. And I'm going to check one other thing. So let's see. That's good. And I'm going to invert the up and down direction here because I want it a little different. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go filters assigned, and I'm going to look at the external view pitch axis. So we can look through here. And here's external view pitch axis. And I'm going to set inverted axis and see if that feels better. Much better for me. Great. And again, you may not want to invert these. This is all up to you. So looks like we're set. I'm just going to go and put this in the air real quick to make sure that we're good. So I'm going to take off the parking brake by pressing F2, increasing the throttle to 100%. Not because I'm trying really hard to be a good pilot. I literally want to get in the air just so I can test out my controls. So let's rotate, and feels pretty good right now. Let's try putting the flaps up, see how that works. Yep, flaps are working. Let's go inside and let's see if I can adjust the mixture, make sure that's working. Yep, mixture's looking good. Of course, I'm not paying attention where I'm going, which is not the best, but yep, mixture's working. Flaps are working. All of these things seem to be working pretty well. Let's try the rudder. So we're gonna, yep, rudder's working well. That's exactly how I expected. So I'm gonna press the active pause button and say, this seems to be a success here. I really appreciate you watching this, and I hope that this video has been helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, please either put them in the comments below or drop in on the VKB Discord, and I'm happy to answer any questions there. All right, good luck, safe flying.